So we left off with the engine now being mounted and unsupported, which is fantastic. We are actually using the mounts that we built. That's great. So now on to the transmission, and let me show you, remind you, in case you didn't see it, where we're at as far as the alignment and probably what we need to do next tonight, and discuss the path forward. So if you see this line here, this represents where the center line of my transmission needs to be in order for the whole engine to be parallel to the car and to the rear diff. And you can see we're actually really close, probably actually just about spot on, but I'm rubbing here. So we need to cut this out a little bit to give us a little bit of extra clearance, because even if this ends up dropping a little bit because of the bushings, you know, once we weld up everything, once you put the weight on the mount, it might drop a little, but we're still probably going to get some vibration noise from that. So let's cut that out, make sure that everything's good up here, and then we can look down below and see what we can mount to for the actual mount solution. So that gives us enough room to work with now. I also cut up here a little bit. I probably want to go a little bit further, but this at least gives me an indication so that when I pull everything out again, I know exactly where that lands. I can pull it back a little bit more, and then I can work on building a frame around all this to cover this back up and give it some rigidity back, because right now it's a bit floppy, which is just fine. But I filed in here mostly just to get rid of sharp edges. None of this is finished or final. I'll make another sheet of steel to cover up what I can, and then we'll have another kind of bolt-on piece on top of it that kind of helps seal all this, that we can then tie, you know, some type of a boot to. All right, so now let's get underneath and have a look down there. All right, so this is the factory cross member block here. I had to take it off because this part was hitting the chassis. I can kind of force it in here if I just kind of go like that. See, it kind of goes in. But what I'm thinking is that these factory bushings are already doing the right job, and they were fine enough for Honda. Do I go ahead and just reuse that and fabricate something? I could build a bracket off the chassis to come down and bolt that onto, and then maybe cut this and make something else that comes out and does similar thing over here maybe. I like that this is kind of already tucked up for exhaust, because I'm gonna have exhaust that's coming from there, and it has to come around this way, right? And I can only go down so low before I'm hitting here. So this is, I'll tell you, almost every Z has exhaust that hangs lower than this. So I'm not too worried, but the more I can get this kind of tucked up into there, the better. So granted, there's not a whole lot of space right there anyway, but if I cut this and modified it, maybe that's a better way to go than trying to make a custom bracket from scratch. I don't know, let me think about this. In the meantime, I'll get some other stuff cleaned up from down here, some other scissor jacks and stuff I don't need, and yeah, more stuff that I just don't need down here. So we'll clean up, and I'll think about this and maybe figure out a way to get you guys in here to watch what's going on as the action happens. So I decided, I think I'm gonna go ahead and make my own bracket entirely. That's for
two main reasons, but a bonus third. The first reason is I think I can make something more compact that sits higher up in the tunnel than using this bracket and coming way down here. The second thing is that these have quite a lot of flex in them. May not seem like maybe that much, but it's designed for a modern S2000 that has lots of isolation from the chassis to the drivetrain to minimize vibrations. Vibrations aren't always great. You know, a lot of car guys will talk about, oh yeah, my XYZ car, blah, 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 had solid mounts. I loved it. It was great. You know, it's not always great. But I don't need complete isolation. I don't need a completely rubbery, vibration-free shifter that I can't feel anything in. I'm okay with it being a little bit stiffer. So I already have poly bushings ready to go on hand. I'm not having to buy something else extra to make this happen. So in keeping with using what we have and keeping the cost down as low as I can, it's not really added cost to make my own bracket. So I think we'll just go ahead and make a bracket. The third bonus thing is, oh wow, this is, oh, and there's more screws in that way, of course. Oh, of course. I'm shocked that that is designed that way. Okay. The bonus aspect is potentially weight. I think the brackets I make will be lighter than all of this stuff combined. This combined with alterations plus this thing. Even just these guys, though. These are like, what are these made out of? They're like freaking cast iron. I mean, they're nice. I'm gonna keep them. They'll go in the scrap metal bin. But by making this more compact, I think we'll also make it lighter in the process. So, yeah. $17. Like that vampire dyno. Bumping the vampires there. One. Oh. Okay, so here's my idea, which might be the right idea, might change direction, but right now what I'm thinking is, I already have this really nice OEM piece that fits there ever so nicely. I don't love how hard it was to get to from the factory, but I get why they did it. It was serviceable enough, but what I can do is just a little bit more suited to my application is I'm gonna reuse the bracket. And you saw I cut a ton off, and you're probably thinking that all my strength has gone from this bracket, and you're kind of right. I mean, it's strong enough to locate this. But it's not super sturdy. But what I'm gonna do is I think there's just enough space to get a tube. This is like too long, the wrong shape here. But anyway, point being, there's enough space here between the bolts to get a tube in. I don't want to just come across and go to there and there. I think it'll actually be better if I go at an angle like this. And then I can actually bring the two tubes together and roll them at an angle, at a V angle there. And then I'll have the bushings right about there on the bracket. The bracket will be just far enough over that I can still get a socket head, a ratchet head in here. I think I'll still be able to service that and remove it. I'm gonna think on it overnight, and yeah.
So we got a good bit done tonight. So next is thinking through finalizing that fabrication on the design of that mount, and then actually doing it. I'll have to do a bunch of cleanup on the transmission tunnel. I don't know how well it shows up on camera, but there's still undercoating all over the inside of that trans tunnel. So I gotta get back under there with the flap disc and clean all that out. And then we can start building the brackets to come off the chassis. But before I even do that, I wanna get the center section made. Because I can make the center section, bolt everything to it, and then trim the brackets to fit the chassis. Same as I did kind of on the engine bay side. So that's it for this episode, and yeah, keep jamming.